gentlemen, Congressman Sean Duffy.
Hey, everybody! You guys are one good-looking rally. I gotta tell you, I'm so proud. As the national anthem was going, I looked out and I didn't see any of you kneeling. So proud of you. Listen, it's great to be here with so many of you. I'm here with my 7 kids and my lovely wife, Rachel. If you see her, she's doing a package for Fox and Friends, so feel free to harass her. So I know the president's in the air and he's excited to come to central Wisconsin. Excited. I gotta tell you what, this campaign, you guys, it's gearing up. Even later this week, Barack Obama is coming to Wisconsin to campaign for the liberal Tammy Baldwin. Now, speaking of Obama, remember when Obama told us that his bad economy was our new normal? And he told us that our manufacturing jobs are never coming back to America. And Obama said if you want to renegotiate trade deals, renegotiate NAFTA, Trump will need a magic wand. Do you remember that? And now get this. Barack Obama is trying to take credit for this Trump GOP red hot blue collar recovery. Can you believe it? Now, Obama taking credit for our recovery is like Elizabeth Warren taking credit for being a Cherokee Indian. Right? Or it's kind of like the Chicago Bear defense taking credit for a Aaron Rodgers touchdown. That's how crazy that is. Well, Barack Obama can't fool our Wisconsin workers, our farmers, and our families. We lived through 8 years of his stagnant economy. We know his policies didn't work. Now, Donald Trump took over Barack Obama's crappy economy, and 2 years later, we have an economic powerhouse. Yeah, he did it by putting our workers, our manufacturers, and our farmers first. In Wisconsin, our wages have increased in the last year by 5%. Donald Trump knows that the American dream is made in America. Now, the stakes are high in this election. And if you turn on the TV, you'll see whose side is fighting for what. Democrats, they're fighting for illegal immigrants in a caravan, right? Republicans, we're fighting for families that drive Dodge Caravans. Democrats, they want to raise your taxes, right? They want a government takeover over health care. They want to weaken our military, attack our law enforcement. And they want open borders. And as we have that 4,500 group of migrant illegals coming through Mexico to our border to come in unlawfully, they want to abolish ICE. Can you believe that? Now, what have we done? Republicans, we want to lower taxes because we believe that you spend your money better than bureaucrats and politicians in Washington. We want to maximize your freedom by reducing rules and regulations. We're rebuilding our military after years of neglect. And because of the help of Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress, America is the #1 energy producer in the world. I don't know about you, but when I fill up my car, I love that I don't send my money to some Middle Eastern country that hates us. I send my money to North Dakota or Texas. Isn't that great? They like us there. And finally, we're fighting for better trade deals for our workers and our dairy farmers. And we're taking on China. Listen, if we're going to continue to win, if we're going to continue to make America great again, we're all going to have to work together, call together, knock doors together, talk to our family, our friends, our neighbors, our coffee clutch crew, and we got to get the word out. And if we all work together, you know this blue wave they've been talking about? They're going to hit a red wall like all those hats out there. What is so important for us is that we have another fighter in the Senate like Ron Johnson. Tammy Baldwin's a liberal who represents Madison values, not our values. We have a great senator in Leah Vukmir who has been spit on. She's been shamed by the liberals. She's a fighter and a scrapper. We need her as a U.S. senator. Oh, and we might need some help out here. Medical over here in the front. I have a medical issue here in the front. Hold on, hold on. We got a medical issue right in front, about 3 rows back. All right, everybody. Let's give our first responders and law enforcement a round of applause. We appreciate what they do. I only had 5 minutes, and now I really went over my time. All right, you guys, it's a real honor for me to welcome someone who has fought for us, fought for liberty and freedom and lower taxes and less rules and less regulations, someone who helped grow our Wisconsin with an unemployment rate of less than 3%. The next senator of this great state of Wisconsin. Let's give a warm Central Wisconsin welcome to Leah Vukmir.
The private sector she doesn't even know exists. It is so great to be here. My friends, it is such an honor for me to stand before you. Only in America, only in this great country, can the daughter of Greek immigrants, a nurse, a military mom, go from thank you to all who serve, go from being a grassroots mom with a cause to stand before you as your United States Senate GOP nominee. I am honored, I am humbled, and we are going to win on November 6th. When I won my primary, President Trump called to congratulate me, and he promised that he would come to Wisconsin. Well, guess what? He followed through on his promise like he always follows through on his promises. He does things like we do in Wisconsin. We know how to follow through on our promises, right? And his promise to make America great again, it's working. Look at how he's promised us on tax reform. Think about it. He kept his promise, overhauling our tax code, helping middle-class Americans with tax cuts, our small businesses with tax cuts. Nobody has done that since Ronald Reagan, but President Trump is following through on his promise. On trade, liberals like Tammy Baldwin, they don't think that the president is able to renegotiate. Do we have another problem here? Are we okay? Oh, we're okay. All right. I thought we had another person down. Okay. On trade, liberals like Tammy Baldwin didn't believe he could do it, but President Donald Trump has kept his promise. He's renegotiated trade deals with Mexico and Canada, and this is going to help our Wisconsin dairy farmers. Nobody's working harder than Donald Trump to fix health care. As a nurse, I will work with President Donald Trump, and we will make sure that people with pre-existing conditions are covered. That's what we do as Republicans. Unlike Tammy Baldwin's plan, she calls it Medicare for all. You know what I call it? Chaos for all. I will protect Medicare and Medicare Advantage for our seniors. And I will make sure that 3.4 million of you who get your insurance from your employer continue to get it. She wants that thrown out, not on my watch. On judicial nominees, he's kept his promise. How about Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh? Woo! And what about Senator Baldwin? What about Senator Baldwin? 48 hours. 48 hours after President Trump named him, she already decided she wasn't going to vote for him. Boo. If she isn't willing to do her job, step aside. I am. And on veterans, on our dear, dear veterans, those of you who have worn the uniform to protect our country and to protect our liberties, President Trump is following through on his promises. He's fixing the VA. He's making it right for you. And one thing the media back there won't report, but I will. President Trump has donated his paychecks to help our veterans. That is keeping a promise. And we know how Tammy Baldwin let our veterans down at the Toma VA. Toma Tammy turned her back on her veterans. She knew that a doctor was overprescribing opioids. Veterans were becoming addicted. A veteran died. She sat on a report for months until it was exposed. And then what did she do? She hired Hillary Clinton's attorneys to cover it up. She took your This is serious, guys. Think about this, though. She hired Hillary's attorneys. She used your taxpayer money as hush money to silence one of her staff members who did the right thing. Tammy Baldwin turned her back on her veterans. I will never turn my back on the veterans. And President Donald Trump won't turn his back on the veterans. How Tammy Baldwin treated our veterans, it's a betrayal of Wisconsin values. And if she cannot be accountable to our veterans, she will never be accountable to any one of us. So my friends, the contrast could not be more clear. This election boils down to trust. Who will you trust on health care? Tammy Baldwin, who has walked the halls of government for 34 years. Or the career nurse who's walked the halls of some of our finest hospitals here in Wisconsin. Who are you going to trust on immigration reform? Tammy Baldwin, who supports open borders, sanctuary cities, and abolishing ICE? I don't think so. How about trusting the daughter of Greek immigrants who understands we are a nation of laws which must be upheld? Who will you trust on taxes? Tax and Tammy? Tammy has voted to increase your taxes 413 times. And she voted against the tax cuts. Or will you trust the middle-class mom who helped work with our great team here in Wisconsin to give you $8 billion in tax relief? Who will you trust with our veterans? We already know that Tammy Baldwin turned her back on our veterans. The military mom is not going to turn her back on the veterans. And finally, who will you trust to stand with President Donald Trump and help make America great? Tammy Baldwin, who campaigned with crooked Hillary Clinton? Or the gal who cut a Women for Trump radio ad for our good president in October of 2016 and helped him get across the finish line? Wisconsin elected President Trump with 27,000 votes. He won. No, we won. We won when nobody said we could do it, when the polls said we couldn't do it. Well, guess what, my friends? We're going to do the same on November 6th. And we will continue working with this great president as we make America great and keep America great. God bless you for all that you do and all that you will do in the next 13 days. Keep the faith. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, my friends, thank you. I am so thrilled to introduce our next speaker, and in fact, he is our speaker, and he is still our speaker for a little while longer. He needs no introduction. He is a friend of ours. He has been working very hard, and it gives me an honor to introduce our speaker, Paul Ryan.
Who are you going to vote for November 6th? That's right. Leah. 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 Thank you, Leah. What a beautiful day, what a beautiful state, and what a beautiful country, huh? Man. It is so nice to see all you here in central Wisconsin. Let me just say something that I think needs to be said on a day like today. I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Bill, I'll get to that. Did you see the news this morning? Shh. Did you see the news this morning about these devices? That is an act of terrorism. There is no place for that in our democracy. We reject that, and I just want to say thank God for our law enforcement who is doing this day in and day out to keep us safe. Let's keep them in our prayers, and let's be thankful for them on a day like today. Let me just start off with an issue then. You guys care about immigration? You know, the House passed already the bill this summer funding the wall. Did you know that? Do you know why it hasn't landed on President Trump's desk? Because Tammy Baldwin and Chuck Schumer are filibustering that bill that funds the wall. So who are you going to vote for November 6th for the United States Senate? That's right. We need more senators. Let me tell you something. Let me ask you a couple questions. Do you think just 2 years back, are you better off today than you were 2 years ago? Think about it this way. Remember the economy. Remember jobs. Remember unemployment. Remember Obama. Just less than 2 years ago, we teamed up, this unified government with Donald Trump. We teamed up and we tackled the big issues that needed tackling. We said to the country, we are going to fix these problems. And what did we do? We passed regulatory reform after regulatory reform. And as a result of all those regulatory reforms, America's the #1 producer in gas. We're the #1 producer in oil, and we are going to be a net exporter in oil. The next 5 years, OPEC will be paling in comparison to America because of what we've done. Remember Dodd-Frank? It's gone for our community banks in Wisconsin, thanks to people like Sean Duffy and Donald Trump who made that happen. And don't forget, when you get your paycheck, look at your paycheck, because for 9 out of 10 people in this country, your paycheck is bigger because of tax cuts and tax reform. Don't forget that this April 15th, your child tax credit will be twice what it was last year. Let's not forget that a family of 4 gets $2,000 back on average right here in Wisconsin because of tax cuts and tax reform. And let's not forget this. This is the lowest unemployment rate we have seen in 49 years. Huh. More take-home pay, higher wages, more jobs. We are fixing America's problems. You know, I was in Afghanistan about 10 days ago, and I got to see the best of us in Afghanistan. I got to see soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Wisconsinites. It was an amazing thing. I got to see a friend of mine from Janesville, who is the commanding general of the 101st Airborne, leading our troops over in Afghanistan. I got to see 2 Army privates, one from Janesville, one from Elkhorn, keeping our troops safe in Helmand Province. And do you know what matters the most about all of this? Is this Congress, with this president, passed the biggest pay raise for our troops in a decade, passed a bill to rebuild our military and make good on the promises we kept to get our military what they need to do their jobs. That's because of Donald Trump and this Congress. Remember that disgrace at the VA. I'm not talking about just Tammy and Toma, but remember all those waiting lists. Remember all this mismanagement. We cleaned up the VA. We overhauled the entire VA healthcare system so we can finally honor the promises that we made to our veterans who earned these benefits in the first place. Do you know how that happened? Because of this Congress and President Donald Trump. The question is, are you better off than you were 2 years ago? Absolutely yes. Is Wisconsin better off than we were 2 years ago? My friends, Election Day is 13 days away. 13 days away. And do you know what they want to do? Those people who are our adversaries. The Democrats want to take it all back. They want to go backwards. In Washington, they want to abolish ICE. They want to abolish the very agency that is in charge of stopping drugs from coming to this country, stopping human trafficking, policing our border. We're the ones fixing the border, funding the wall. They're filibustering it, and they want to repeal the entire agency in charge of all of this. It's crazy. They're the ones who want socialized medicine. It will bankrupt Medicare and end employer-sponsored health care. And their $32 trillion price tag, take your taxes, more than double them, and that doesn't even pay for their empty promises. They are full of it. They are full of it. 13 days. 13 days. So from Washington to Wisconsin, the Democrats want to take us back. And nowhere is this more clear than right here in Wisconsin. Tony Evers will tax us to death if that guy gets into office. Scott Walker has been there for us. Scott Walker went through everything for us. Scott Walker did what we asked him to do. He ran for office, he said what he was going to do, he said it was going to help Wisconsin, and he did it. Ugh. They try to recall him, they try to recall our legislature, and he stood up for our convictions. He stayed strong, and Wisconsin is so much better off because of it. But do you know why all this money is pouring into Wisconsin? It's really not a blue wave, it's a green wave of money. Do you know why all of this money is pouring into Wisconsin? Because they don't want to see Scott Walker succeed. They don't want to see these conservative ideas succeed. Friends, we owe it to Scott to get every single one of us and our friends and our neighbors out to the polls to vote for Scott Walker. Scott Walker has been there for us. We have to stand up and be there for them. He deserves it. He's our governor. He's our champion. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the best governor in America, Governor Scott Walker.
Well, thanks, Paul. You know, Paul and I and the others were standing back there, and as you all sang the national anthem, I can't help but look at that flag and think about freedom. Endowed by our Creator, defined by our Constitution, but defended each and every day by the men and women who proudly wear the uniform of these United States. If you're a veteran, a family member veteran, or a service member, would you please raise your hand and be acknowledged here today? Thank you. We can't say it enough. Thank you. You know, as Paul just said, I want to begin, I'm going to touch on this campaign in a moment, but I want to begin by thanking the President of the United States, Donald Trump, for what he clearly said today, that we're going to get the people responsible for these devices, because let me be clear, an attempt to engage in a terrorist act against any American is an attack against every American. We need to let the world know that every one of us stands up against terrorism here in the United States of America. Everyone. That's exactly right. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. I don't care what party, I don't know what your background, you mess with an American, you mess with every one of us here. And I appreciate our president making that absolutely clear today. I want to thank our president for being back here in Wisconsin. How about that, huh? You know, Donald Trump's been here many times, but about 2 weeks ago, we had another great friend, Vice President Mike Pence, and I were in Green Bay campaigning. He was over in Eau Claire, and in between times, he got the president on the phone. And the president said, I want to come campaign for you. Where should I go? I said, I think you should go to North Central Wisconsin. And that's where he's at. How about that? That's pretty exciting. We're thrilled to have him here. It's a great chance for us to get our message out. Our message out, our message, not my message, our message out, because together we have turned this state around. 8 years ago, this state was a mess, an absolute mess. We had 9.3% unemployment. During Jim Dole's last term, we lost over 133,000 jobs in this state. And worst of all, I got to tell you, as a parent, My two kids over there, along with my beautiful wife, Tonette. Tonette and I were worried that our kids weren't going to be able to find a job, let alone a career, because graduates were leaving the state to pursue their career somewhere else. But thank God we came in, and together we turned this state around. Today in Wisconsin, there are more people employed in this state than ever before in the history of Wisconsin, ever. 8 years after taking office, we've had 8 consecutive months, 8 months in a row of record low unemployment, and today there are more than 100,000 job openings on our state website, which means there's more career opportunities in this state than there are unemployed people to fill them in the entire state of Wisconsin. How about that for a Wisconsin comeback? We inherited a $3.6 billion budget deficit, and today and every year since, we have a surplus. We invested that surplus into our priorities. We invested more actual dollars into education in this state than ever before in the history of Wisconsin. You don't hear it from the press, but those are the facts. More actual dollars, an extra $200 every year for every student in every school district in this state, and even more for rural school districts to help with their unit cost. And we still had enough money left over to reduce your tax burden by over $8 billion, and we're not done yet. That's lower property taxes and lower income taxes for working families and senior citizens, for family farmers and small business owners, lower today than they were 8 years ago. And we're not done yet. When Obamacare premiums in this state went up 44%, we took action with a bipartisan plan called the Healthcare Stability Plan, and I'm proud to tell you, we just heard last week that premiums will go down by more than 4% starting in January, and by 10% from where they would have headed before. That's a savings of nearly $1,000 for individuals all across the state. Now, my opponent, Tony Evers, wants to go the opposite direction. He wants to expand Obamacare to higher income levels. You know what happened when Minnesota did that? Premiums went up. Premiums went up. Remember 2 years ago, in October of 2016, the governor in Minnesota, Mark Dayton, a Democrat, Mark Dayton said the Affordable Care Act is no longer affordable. No truer words have been said from a Democrat, because premiums were going up there under Obamacare between 50 and 67%. Do we want Tony Evers to do to Wisconsin what they did in Minnesota? No, we got a better plan, lower premiums, more choices, particularly in rural areas, and better health care. But you know why they're talking about other things along the way? They don't want you to see what they're really talking about. They want to lie about what's happened. I want to tell you about one particular lie you can help us out with. Pre-existing conditions. Pre-existing conditions. You see, in Wisconsin, we can protect people with pre-existing conditions without protecting the failure that is Obamacare in this state. We can do it. It's simple. As long as I'm your governor, we will always cover people with pre-existing conditions. My wife, Tonette, over there, is a type 1 diabetic. My mother is a survivor of breast cancer, almost 2 years to the day. My brother, my little brother, who's now bigger and taller than I am, he has a heart condition. Like a lot of you here tonight and a lot of people across the state and around the country, covering people with pre-existing conditions is personal to me, like it is to a lot of your families. I think it is outrageous that Tony Evers and Tammy Baldwin and liberals across the country are playing politics with people's health care. We will always cover people with pre-existing conditions. But you see, Tony wants you to not pay attention to his plans. Tony Evers wants you not to know that he wants to undo our reforms that save schools more than $3 billion. See, if he and the unions have their way, they would undo those reforms, and that would take money out of the classroom, away from students, and he'll raise your property taxes to pay for it. Tony doesn't want you to know what he said on Friday night in our debate, and that is he wants to give driver's licenses to illegal aliens in the state of Wisconsin. That's right. That's what he said right in the debate. And I think the real thing he doesn't want you to know is that Tony Evers will raise your property taxes. That would hurt senior citizens and working families. Tony Evers would raise taxes on manufacturers, and that would cost us jobs. Tony Evers would raise taxes on farmers. On farmers. Do our farmers need a tax increase? And Tony Evers, get this, Tony Evers will raise your gas tax by as much as $1 a gallon. A typical family in this state with 2 vehicles, that would cost you $1,200 more a year. Can you afford that? No. So let me be clear. Tony's taxes will cost us jobs. Did you hear that? Tony's taxes will cost us jobs. Did you hear it? Tony's taxes will cost us jobs. Did they hear it down in Madison? Tony's taxes will cost us jobs. You know what the good news is? We don't have to have those taxes because we've got a plan to keep moving Wisconsin forward, to keep Wisconsin working for generations to come. To do that, I need your help. Go to scottwalker.com. Get the facts. Get the facts out there. Go to scottwalker.com and sign up to knock on doors, to make phone calls, to talk to your neighbor, to talk to your friends, to talk to people when you're standing in line at the grocery store. We need you out on the doors. I know in this area, I was just there the other day. There's a field office just down the way in Weston, down from the Weston Bowling Alley right down there. There's places like that all over the state. Do you want to win, not just for me and Republicans, but for our kids and our grandkids on November 6th? Then how many of you are willing today to raise your hand and say, I'll make a call, I'll knock on a door, I'll talk to my family, I'll talk to my friends, I'll talk to my neighbors, I'll talk to folks at church, I'll get the message out. Because when we do that, we can keep Wisconsin working for generations to come, just like our president is going to keep America working for generations to come. God bless you all. We're excited to have the president here. Let's use your enthusiasm to get that message out all over the great state of Wisconsin. Thank you all.